Hey guys, super excited today. We got Sean O'Gorman on the program today. Sean was referred to me by my friend Jacob out in Central Oregon. Love Oregon. That's where I live and work myself. So, Sean, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean, I know that the reason why you were referred to me and to come on the podcast is because you had some pretty incredible success out there in Central Oregon. It kind of I know all the listeners will be interested in seeing how you created that success, but kind of backing up before we start down that journey, how did you arrive at real estate? Is this a second career or first career for you? How'd you get here?
Yeah, this is it's like a third or fourth career, I guess.
Gotcha.
Um, Air Force guy
Okay.
for 4 years and started there. Um, uh, got out of the service, got into the telecommunications business.
Hmm.
Did all kind bounced around in that sector for a while, doing all kinds of stuff. Had my own business, and really kind of a grassroots business guy. I couldn't articulate that here maybe a few years ago, but the more and more I get more of a formal business education and I get into that group,
Yeah.
I realize that I'm just like this grassroots business guy that kind of, got out there and got into the space and really didn't have this formal education in this and but figured things out. I mean, had a lot of success where with what I was doing.
Yeah.
Um, got into real estate. There was a big move that happened, and the company that I had was things were kind of winding down. And I was in a space where being the middleman and the technology changes, I realize I'm only going to be, the shelf life on this, or we're only going to be around for maybe 2 or 3 years until this thing's done.
Yeah.
So was looking for the next thing. I was buying investment property. The business was going well. I was like, I don't know, I was like 26, 27, 28. Had my business doing well.
Yeah.
Started buying investment property, and that was where the interest started. Like
Mm.
where I was intrigued with it. Um, we had moved down to Arizona, and I decided I was going to get my real estate license, and so it was very different once I got started in the business. I had all these ideas on what this was going to be like and what I
Right.
was doing and why I wanted to be in the business.
Yeah.
And and it just turned out to be so different,
It's interesting
once I
like
got started.
the perception of what a real estate agent does to be successful versus what we actually have to do to be successful. It's an interesting connect though. I mean, it's still definitely entrepreneurship and owning a small business, but the kind of the steps in the chain are different. What did you join a team or were you a solo agent right out of the gate? What did you do?
I was lucky enough to get picked up by a team
Okay.
when I got down there. I was going to different brokerages. I was over in Mesa, I was over in Scottsdale, I was over in Phoenix, and I was driving all over the place and trying to figure out where I wanted to be and what was offered. And
Hmm.
I got lucky. I went into a Coldwell Banker office, and I happened to wear a tie. I happened to dress nice, and I came in there, and this principal broker said, "Hey, you know what? You're perfect for this team that's here at Coldwell Banker." And so I interviewed with the team and the team lead, and I thought, I don't know, this is what I want to do. I'm kind of an independent guy, and so I went for it. I think one of the best decisions I could have at that time, going into it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why is that? Because of the training, kind of the support you got from that?
Yeah, I got to sit next to this very brilliant team lead, and
Mhm.
he was like, "This is how we send emails. This is how we talk on the phone. This is," he exposed me to this is the standard and the bar in this business if you want to be successful.
Interesting.
And yeah, it was like maybe 2 years until the training wheels started coming off for me.
Hmm.
So not that's I don't say that for everybody.
Yeah.
I know that there's personality types that come into this business, and it may take them 2 months, and and they're confident, and I've seen that before. I think it's
Right.
rare.
Yeah.
But for me, that it wasn't. I talk about this at my office all the time, where I've said, especially to the newer agent group, I'll say it wasn't until year three that all of a sudden a flip or a switch had flipped.
Hmm.
I was at presentations and, and I was listening to myself talk and I was like, who's this guy? And
Yeah.
but it took a minute and it took a lot of transactions and it took a lot of hand holding for me. to get to that point. And then once I was there, it was like, I was having a lot of success. I mean, I started going out to presentations down there, and I was a listing agent for this team. I wasn't working with buyers during this time, so that was my core focus.
Yeah.
And started going to presentations, and they say, hey, you're one of 4 or 5 agents that we're going to talk to. And got to the point where I got the call back and said, you're the guy, you're the guy we want to work with. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in honing those listing presentation skills, you must have became. I have a lot of questions around that because I think that's the apex point for most of us is getting listings. Did you come in loaded for bear and had all your research done and had your listing presentation dialed in? How did you approach a listing presentation to win
I,
scenario?
yeah, I had a lot of data.
Yeah,
I had a lot of material with me.
yeah.
My average listing presentation was it was probably 2.5 hours long.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So I had a lot to talk about. I had a lot of energy at
Hmm.
those presentations. I was very passionate. Very fun with the video marketing.
Yeah.
You've got these properties with fire features and pools, and you're down in that Sonoran desert, and it was just so fun to do do the drone. I would do the script. I started being in a lot of the videos, talking, doing these video walkthroughs, and down there, and at the time, it was telling. A lot of the buyers down there weren't, they were coming from Michigan, they were coming from New York, they were coming from Seattle.
Yeah.
A lot of this was during the COVID era, right? And so we had a huge migration
Hmm.
down there, and it was like, these videos were like telling the story of the area and really selling something different. So it was really fun to get into that, and to do that. But as far as the listing presentations, yeah, I mean, I would prepare for maybe 3 or 4 hours, research before I'd go out there, put all my data together. And it was very long-winded explanations. We talk about strategy, we talk about market dynamics, we talk about, video marketing, all that kind of stuff. And it was it was very in depth, for
What's
me.
interesting,
Yeah.
what's interesting about that, first of all, I love that you're selling, you're talking about really selling lifestyle to these people coming from the East Coast and coming to down there because you're selling a whole different lifestyle. And I think leaning into that, that's really what we sell, right? We sell lifestyle. We don't sell four walls and a roof. But I think what's
Right.
interesting, I think a lot of times people assume that a seller does not want you to go into a lot of depth. They just want to give you they just want the highlights and let's get to the meat of it. But what you're saying is the exact reverse. It's like they actually want to get into the weeds with you as long as you can intelligently convey it in a way that's interesting, right?
Yeah, they don't know what they don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm interested in, I want to answer their questions, but a lot of the stuff, it's like, I'll talk and talk and talk and talk at these presentations, and then the light bulbs are going off, and they're
Yeah.
like, we've had 3 other agents, and they didn't touch on any of this,
Right.
and with this strategy, and you're talking about, what's going on in the marketplace and who our buyer is and how you're going to market this to that specific buyer, and and I think. Yeah, I mean, the feedback that I was getting was just like some of this was missed, and it really did take, 2.5, 3 hours to sit down with you
Sure.
and have you explain all this and get us into this world, for us to kind of wrap our head around,
Interesting.
what this is. And it's a big asset too. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's most people, it's their, you look at their net worth, and this is it. I
That's
mean,
it.
so
Yeah.
let's take some time on this for sure, and really, go through the details and have a strategy and really critically think about, what we're doing here for a second. So I think, I think it's warranted, and I think that sellers, they realize that, they
Mhm.
realize when they got somebody in front of them that, is competent, has been in the business for a while, has some experience, and they've got some things to say. I think that the sellers begin to catch on, like this is a big deal, and there's a big difference between who's walking through the door and what they're saying for sure.
Now, interesting question for you because when you got to the point where you have complete competence, which leads to confidence, and the sellers can feel it, right? But
Yes.
in the
Yeah,
beginning, from day one, like the first, few presentations, did you shadow somebody? Did somebody go out with you, like the team lead, and then
I did.
you learn from him or her?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was blown away. I was very intimidated watching the level of these presentations and the skill. I mean,
Yeah.
I really was. And when I started going and I had to do it on my own,
Yeah.
and we got to that point, I was so nervous. I mean, I'd be sitting in front of these houses before these presentations, and I was like, I can't drink another. I can't have a cup of coffee right now. Like I'm just, I'd go in and, I was just so nervous. But like I said, I talked about this switch that got flipped along the way, and yeah, something happened. I mean, it took a while to get there, but then once I got it, I had it, and I'd really walk into those presentations with a lot of confidence, and and I had a lot of value to offer at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
I really walked in there and I was like, I'm the guy. I'm the guy. I mean, I really, I can really lead this person to a lot of success here, and so yeah,
I think what that research does is it, they always talk about who's the smartest person in the room. Is it the seller or is it you? And if the seller knows more than you do, then you're in trouble already. So you got to come in there knowing a lot of good data, which goes back to your research. But let's fast forward now. So you're successful,
sure.
you're doing well. At some point, you made the decision to totally change your life and move to Central Oregon. What
My
happened?
wife did.
Oh, your
Yeah,
wife.
no, the missus was ready to move back. We have both of us have histories here in Oregon. Oregon felt like home. I've been all over. I've lived in Texas and New Jersey and Washington, California, and Arizona, and I was in the Air Force. We've been, and somewhere along the way, all these places I lived, Oregon was the one. Oregon felt like home.
Yeah.
Um, so down in Arizona, we moved there as a big city life. We got the house with the pool and had all our stuff. Our son was born. COVID happened. We didn't have a lot of family down there. My wife we've been down there for 5 years. My wife was kind of like, I'm ready to go home. And I said, if you want to move back to Oregon, let's take a look. Let's look at Ben. So that's how that happened. But
Gotcha. So now you
yeah,
get you hit this market and you haven't sold real estate here, right? And you don't
no, I didn't
know
know.
a
I
lot
didn't
of
know
people.
anybody here.
Yeah.
Yes, I just showed up. Yeah, I just showed up. I was just like, hey, I'm from Arizona, and we just moved here.
So
Yeah,
this is
didn't know
fascinating.
anybody.
For agents that are listening to this, you're basically a new agent, although you got experience, but you're a new agent
Yes.
market and you don't have any SOI. You don't, I mean, you have some family, but you don't have a big SOI, right? So how did you
Right.
go? You're now doing 15 million this year. How did you go from zero to where you're at? I mean, you're crushing it now. So what did you do exactly?
So knew I knew what my strengths were and I
Yeah.
knew what my weaknesses were, coming here. And I knew I had some experience under my belt and I had some success. I needed to learn this market pretty quick.
Yeah.
I kind of, I needed to, the business culture was very different. I mean, that was like a day one thing. I came in the office in a tie and everyone's like, look, dude, this is Central Oregon. And, and so I got that. I
This is
still wear the tie. Most days I wear the tie. I go out to presentations in a tie,
yeah.
still. So it was different. I mean, I really, and it's a much smaller market. I was in the fourth largest city in America down there, and there's a lot of different opportunity. It looked very different. And now, moving to Central Oregon, it marches to the beat of a different drum. So I had a lot to figure out. And I needed to study a lot of things. I needed to know where things were, and so I had a lot of help. I got great resources in the office and kind of really paying attention to what the other agents that have been in this market for a while, what they were saying. And but for me, I think I looked at it as a business. I looked at this as a business, and what's our game plan? I drew up a business plan at the beginning of the year 2024. I had a roadmap for what this was going to look like. I had a roadmap for where I was going to spend money. I had a roadmap for what the expectation was going to be that year. And I just got to work. I had no sphere of influence, so I was, lots of investment in cold lead generation, and that kind of stuff. I went out, I started knocking on doors in different communities, and introduced myself. Started doing floor time, started doing the open houses and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, and I
Interesting.
think it was um, it was maybe like 4 or 5 months into being in this new market and purchasing leads, and I mean just hustling. I mean, I'm in here now. I'm in the office 40, 50 hours a week. I'm just grinding, and I thought, well, this is so different, but there's as much opportunity here as as you want. I mean, I think and I didn't know. I thought, oh, small town, everyone knows each other.
Hmm.
Down in Phoenix, it was just like all these fish are swimming around and they don't know
No
anybody. It's
connection.
a big, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's and I was concerned here. I was like, everyone, it's just a tight knit community. How am I going to be the outsider that kind of comes in and gains traction in this thing? And yeah, it didn't take very long, and I was like, well, there's as much opportunity as I want. I mean,
Yeah.
really. And so that perception changed, and yeah, and things started clicking along. I'll say that a lot of that cold lead stuff, um, I my conversion rate is pretty good, but because I've been in the business for a while, I was getting on the phone, I can talk the talk, I can walk the walk, and even though I'm brand new to this area, there's still a lot of value and still a lot of things that I do well. So for newer agents, I'm always, I'll caution, you don't need to run out and spend $40,000 this year on cold leads, especially if you have that sphere of influence. But if, for me, with the background, that conversion rate, I thought that conversion rate probably isn't going to be too bad. And this is a great way to get started,
Yeah.
is in this space doing this. Yeah.
When you're writing your business plan, did you look at, hey, I need to have this many appointments per week, this many cold calls, or whatever your approach was? How detailed was that plan? I'm just curious.
I think so 2025 is much more detailed because I know much more
Yeah.
now. I
Yeah.
know who the players are. I know how to play the game a little bit better. And I got a good idea of what's going on. 2024 was really kind of like, hey, we got to pick a plan and we got to stick with it. And I think it's always nerve-wracking, for me before you're signing the check, and it's just like, I don't know if this is even going to work. And that's kind of where I was at. So I think it was a vague roadmap, but I had at least enough stuff in there to when I got anxious and I'm like and I could look back at the game plan. I'm like, this is what we said we were going to do, and I put it in writing and I look at it, I have to look at myself in the mirror every morning and say, you said you were going to do this, dude. So let's make it happen. So the 2024 game plan that's kind of what it looked like. 2025 is a little bit different. It's a little more in depth as far as what the strategy is for this year. Yeah.
Gotcha. And when you're looking at your business plan, you're starting that like October, November, setting that in stone, and then working through it. Now, let me ask you this: in terms of lead gen, what has changed for you between 24 and 25? I'm just out of curiosity. Have you pivoted to say, I'm not doing as many online leads, or maybe I'm doing this more and this less, just based on the experience you've gotten in the market?
I experimented a lot in 2024
Yeah.
because that was when I became a solo agent. Before I was on the team, and they had a big sphere of influence and thousands of past clients and that sort of thing. So now I'm on my own. I experimented with 5 or 6 different things,
Mhm.
and I kept track. I kept track over the course of the year what was successful, what wasn't. And then, yeah, and so 2025, we looked at what had happened. We had a lot of information, and then we reinvested in what worked, and we started trimming out what wasn't so successful.
What
So
was the things that weren't successful? Let's start there. For you, I know every agent's different.
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of the cold lead and prospecting. It's such a casino sometimes. It's just like
Yeah.
it can be so hit and miss, and you never know who's on the other side of the phone. But what wasn't successful for me probably was more of the door knocking
Gotcha.
approach.
Okay.
That was the stuff that I saw that return on investment is very it's very time
Heavy
consuming
time.
too.
Heavy time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I had uh, my son's red wagon. I had filled it up with these faucet covers, and that was kind of my giveaway. As I knocked on the door, it was cold. I was in a big jacket, and I was hustling through the snow and knocking on doors in different communities. And I was just like, hey, my name's Sean, and I'm a local licensed agent, and I just wanted. It's getting cold out there. I want to make sure your faucets are covered. So I hand people the faucet covers of my business cards, and I talk with them for a little bit. So, anyways, I invest a lot of time in that, and I met a lot of people, but it really, I would say that was the one thing that was a lot of work. Dragging that wagon around out in the snow. And if I had to pick one, I'd just be like, yeah, that one we can probably,
We don't
just
need to do that again.
yeah, that's not my game plan for 2025.
What was your, if you want to share it, what's your number one strategy for 2025? What are you leaning into more? Or not number one, but one of your number ones.
Yeah, sure. So, 2025, I would say Zillow, and I've talked to a lot of agents about that in the community, and it's very you get a lot of different
Yeah,
feedback from that. But the thing about Zillow is, those come at a premium price tag,
huge amount of money.
huge amount of money. And for me, I've had this happen where I got the Zillow call and I'm talking with somebody that's really not that objective, and it really doesn't seem productive. And I get off the phone and I was like, that was a trip to Costco that, we just kind of, so it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's you got to stick with it, and keep, I stick with it maybe for about 6 months, and then analyze it. But as far as all the cold, let's say, so we've got all these different ways to generate cold leads, and Zillow. I mean, you think of it as a funnel, and these different leads are out there. I like how it works. I mean, that I get connected. Somebody's waiting to talk to me.
Yeah.
That they're on the other line, and it's just so quick. The things that I'm doing to prospect. I mean, I spend a lot of time trying to chase people down.
Mhm.
And getting them in the CRM, and looking at the follow-ups, and the emails, and all that kind of stuff. So I like Zillow. The other things that we played around last year with, or that I did, was AI,
Mhm.
integrating AI into the business.
Yeah, I love it.
And I saw that working, and that was interesting to see, to use that tool in my business. And so I would say AI is there's a few things that I'm doing with AI
What's
to
your
make
number
things
one?
more
What's your
efficient.
number one AI tool you like the best?
Well, probably Chat
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
GPT.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a great tool. That's a great resource. I'm talking to, super intelligence. We're having conversations,
Hmm.
quite a, definitely a few times a week about, that's like my super intelligence business partner now, right?
Yeah.
So I'll pitch different ideas, or run things through it. It helps me with creative writing too. I mean, I'm sure a lot of agents are like, they'll write in the property facts, send it over to the AI, and the AI comes out with this huge big thing.
Right.
Um, I don't let AI do all the work. I'll talk about it at listing presentations. And I'm like, it's kind of a partnership. I see what it says, and I'm like, oh, that's good. And then I kind of take what it said and edit it, and then I send it back over. And it may go back and forth and back and forth, until we kind of have this perfect product. So it's not AI is not doing everything. I'm still very important in this process.
Sure.
But the other thing that AI had, that I experimented with, was AI having conversations and picking up some of these follow-ups, and the text messages and stuff like that, where my business partner Alex is going out and trying to initiate a lot of these conversations. So Alex had done a lot of the heavy lifting in that, trying to getting in contact with clients. Once Alex started talking with these clients, then I would step in, and
Mhm.
and then I would take the conversation, from there. So that was interesting to see that work, and to incorporate that into the business. And it's also cool. I mean, it's so techie. It's so, I'm not a techie guy, but it's a fun thing to talk about, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, my business is totally integrated in AI, and this
Right.
is like what we're doing with it. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a new system out that I'm exploring myself called ManyChat, which when you talk about follow up with texting, it will reside inside your Instagram account or your Facebook account, and it will instantly engage in conversation with people when they're like DMing you and stuff. And it will actually
Yes.
you'll actually call them and it will have a conversation with them. and it will actually set an appointment in your calendar for you with the people. And it's pretty,
Yes.
yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
It's pretty incredible how
Yeah,
that kind of stuff
yeah,
can work. And
yeah.
I was very impressed with seeing it in action last year. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, moving forward with your business, you're quickly ramping up. You partner with Alex? Are you going to create a team yourself? What's your long-term thoughts?
Um, yeah, I think for right now, 2025, doing the solo agent thing. I enjoy mentoring.
Hmm.
I enjoy talking about the real estate business. I'm very outspoken at brokerage meetings, and so that was something being in the real estate business that I've that's been a theme. And for me, it's just like there is this. It's just in the DNA, that I like teaching real estate. I like having newer agents around me that are trying to figure this out
Hmm.
and to be a voice. And I think it's important because it's like for me that's what I had. And I look back on my experience and I'm really like I don't know how I could have done this. I guess you can, but I got just this supercharged education, and I was afforded that opportunity. And um, I I like I what's the word I'm looking for? Um, I like being a part of that for somebody else, to be in a position to offer that to somebody
Yeah.
else. Still going to do the solo agent thing. I think hopefully, you get to a point where it's just like, um, does it make sense to expand and grow? Hopefully we'll get to that point. But in the meantime, here at the John L. Scott Bend office, I'm really interested in mentoring opportunities.
Yeah.
And the principal broker here, Jacob, and I are, we sit and we talk about different ideas on, how do we develop this? How do we develop this program? And how do we, if we've got a new agent walking through the door, how can we invest in their success and be a part of that? And for me, I'm like, like I said, I have a lot of energy and passion around that. And in a way, it kind of surprises me a little bit. But
I think a lot of top agents they like to be teachers, and we're often teaching our clients, and it's kind of the
yeah,
same extension of that, just being a great teacher, great educator. Um, well, you look at where your goals are. I'm just curious, as a top agent like yourself, and you coming into a market area where you didn't have a SOI, a sphere of influence. Have you set a goal and said, I need to have this many people in my sphere or this many people in my database? Do you have a goal around that, or is that just what's happening? It's just organically happening.
yeah. So these prospects become clients, and clients become past clients, and so that database is growing.
Yeah.
And I'm doing things in the community. I'm going fishing. My kids in daycare. We're going to other little birthday parties and stuff like that. So, I'm meeting people, and that kind of stuff's happening. So, the sphere of influence is, as time goes on, I've seen the agents, their business is growing, and that sphere of influence just becomes that's the core, and they don't have to, hopefully over time, like I'm saying, I spend a lot of money on cold lead generation and this kind of stuff. The idea is to eventually get to a point where the business is less reliant on that for sure, and that's going to be by building that sphere of influence, having that CRM, that machine built and well oiled and working, and so that's definitely a part of the game plan long term. Yeah,
That's the goal. Well,
yeah.
Sean, you've given us a lot of good information, I think, for agents to think about. If somebody wanted to refer you business or work with you out in Central Oregon, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, text, email,
Text you. Okay.
yeah, call
So,
me. Yeah.
want to share your email? You don't have to share your phone number because that's dangerous. But how about your email?
Sure. For right now, we're working on a new domain name, and this will change. But for right now, S Ryan Ryan O'Gorman OGORMAN @gmail.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we'll try to send you some referrals from all the audience members if they've got somebody out there that needs a great agent out in Central Oregon. Thank you for being on the program,
Yeah.
Sean.
Yeah. Of
Appreciate
course.
your insights. Thank you.